was a late defeat on Tuesday, but there's another strong performance. What are your reflections?
No, I think that the contradictory sort of element to these games is individually. When you break down the players individually, Moss is playing very well. Casey, before his injury, was playing very well. Habergan played well. We've got a lot of good individual form. And what we've got to try and achieve over the next, definitely with it, in October, is a little bit more consistency now that we're Saturday to Saturday in terms of selection. We've got to develop those really key things that determine games. Small, I said on Tuesday night about small things becoming huge difference makers. And we've got to make sure we nail down those things because they're the things that are going to get us the points. And then we need to keep working away, staying very positive with the players that are carrying or have carried an enormous strain, enormous duress, and ensure that they go into every game in as positive frame of mind as possible and as fresh as possible, because even though we've got some horrendous numbers injured and individuals injured, that then pressure and fatigue is then passed on to the others. So I think a lot of the others, some of them are in their first sort of spell of a week in, week out campaign as a developing player, and they're going to need that support, and they're going to need to feel fresh and very, very positive, motivated before the games. And I think there's been some really good individual performances, and now collectively we've just got to see games home.
It's no secret we have had a very, very short squad for some weeks this season. Do you think there's a theme or any parallels between, say, the York game and the Halifax game, just being obviously two late defeats? Do you think that's down to maybe fatigue or player availability?
Yeah, and the staff and the manager. I think that's it's important. We all we're very much here. We all take the outcome together, and I think. I think in both those instances, at 1-1, we're desperately trying to win that game. And we're desperately trying to create, solutions to win the game. And that has sometimes affected it. I definitely felt that in the York one. Tuesday was a little bit different because of the nature of the goal. We actually had possession, from a set play. So we should, worst case, get a point and be disappointed with the point. And we would have been disappointed with a point. With our attacking play that we showcased, and we've got to. This is a different group at the moment. This is a very, very different group in terms of some of the recruitment to replace the kind of the staple of the side from last season. And it's almost we've got to teach those. We've got to make sure we go through a period of development with those players in how to see games out. It's very easy to see games out when your side is very settled, and it's the dynamic of Kellerman in Sanderson it's an easy dynamic. They've all played a few hundred games, so I think there's a lot of development in that. But I take real positivity in seeing the way some of these young lads are developing. In particular, Moss is playing at a level now that we've not seen from him at Woking. He's really, really finding himself as a senior player now. Armand, incredible contribution every game. So we're seeing lots of developing performances and themes. And like I said, it's just we've got to stitch it together now. But fatigue, absolutely, on Tuesday night would have played a part. And I think after those, apart from the Dorking game after Gateshead, I think we've struggled on the Tuesdays in September to reproduce the aggression and the clinicality in the performance that maybe we'd have had. For example, we had 18 shots less at Fylde on Saturday and won 2-0. That clinicality came from that freshness and that enthusiasm, that energy that was still there. So they're developing that, and they're doing very well at developing it. And, we're not that far away, I must say.
And touching on recruitment, we have strengthened the squad this week with a couple more additions. One quite familiar, Charlie O'Connell, and the other one, Morgan Williams. Do you want to touch on those and give us a bit of background?
Yeah, look, Charlie is the safest signing of of any season. Brilliant lad, and came in last year in similar circumstances when we needed some support. I think Moss may have needed some support at the time, maybe suspension or injury, and Charlie was fantastic. I know he started in the Boxing Day game here against Aldershot, and was just a brilliant player for us. So it's a safe one. He doesn't need a huge amount of tuition of what we do at Woking, how we train, what the practices are, what is expected of him. He doesn't need any of that. So Charlie is a really good signing for us. Peterborough were excellent as always in their availability of him being able to come out. And Morgan's a real sort of wild card, curveball, if you like. I've got a very strong relationship with the manager and his assistant at FC Wimbledon, and he recommended Morgan, and we've had him in for a couple of days training. He did exceptionally well for his age, first and foremost. And when you're competing against Rowan Ince, for example, you can really highlight whether he is a young player that can handle the physicality, or a young player who can't handle the physicality, and he showed very, very quickly that he could. So Morgan's one that comes in, gives us immediate support in areas where we've obviously lost Oyeleki, Anderson and Kellerman for definitely for tomorrow, but maybe next week as well. And he gives us that support because, I'm looking at, you can see Akinola and Bradshaw, they're going to the bottom of their well every game in order to be at their performance levels, and their performance levels have been exceptionally high for two players that were stereotypically central defenders. Their performance levels have been very strong. So, but that won't happen forever. There'll come a ceiling for them to a threshold, and then they'll become part of our injured list because of that pressure. So Morgan just gives us some relief. Really good footballer. I think you'll see that. Very, very good footballer. A little bit similar to Rolls when we had Jack here, and physically very, very competent.
And tomorrow at Southend, it's obviously been a big week for them. What sort of test will they bring tomorrow?
Well, the thing is, they've done brilliantly through their period. I know firsthand what it's like when a club is trying to be sold and there's a bit of a timer on it. I came here from a club that was in that position, so that was tough. And the way Kevin, staff, and his players went through that is very admirable. But despite having a really small group because of the transfer embargo, they've kept a real consistent team out there week in, week out. It's kind of the polar opposite to us: availability and accessibility to go and recruit players, and needing lots just to get a matchday squad. Whereas Southend have had a real core nucleus that have found their way quickly. I'm sure if they didn't have the 10-point deduction, this would be a top 6 side, absolutely. They pose a real threat. I thought we had 3 really good games last year, 2 in the league and 1 in the cup. I thought they were very, very tight games. I don't expect them to be any different tomorrow. I think it'll be a really tight game, and one that we'll have to try and replicate some of the elements of Tuesday, but also try and improve some of the elements of Tuesday. But good game, brilliant crowd here. I know when away teams come with a strong following, the atmosphere in here combined with our supporters it'll be a good atmosphere. Yeah.
And how is our availability for tomorrow?
I think tomorrow, we'll be at 10 injured tomorrow. So I think there'll be 10 unavailable tomorrow. So we're kind of getting used to this, because even since Kidderminster, it's been 7 to 12 players out every game since the start of the season. And this is why I am so enthused by what the players have done so far, because Ince will be available for his 3rd start of the season when you have someone like Rowan Ince away for 12 games, sorry. There is no replacement for Rowan Ince. he's a big player for us. And we can say the same about Reece and Grego Cox and everyone else. So look, in total there'll be 10. I think there'll be 10 missing. And if we didn't make the short-term loan signings of O'Connell and Williams, we'd be going into the game with 13, maybe 14 players. So they're very much needed, and we're just going to have to keep driving through this period. We hope by next Saturday there'll be another 4 back, hopefully. Kellerman with his ankle, Anderson from his hamstring problem, Casey from his back problem, and Wakefield from his back problem. So we're hoping to we'll drop that injury list substantially by the FA Cup game, and then we're always going to be playing catch up. I'm afraid now there's no easy way to say it, because we have to then blood players gradually in order to get them back up to fitness. It's almost like they're pre-season, in season, and we're trying to get them to a physical level where they can perform and not have a reoccurrence of that injury. So yeah, look, tough. It's been a tough couple of months for me and the staff in particular. It's been very, very tough, because the recruitment has just been 28 hours a day, 9 days a week. It has been very, very, very fast moving. So, but good things will be there in the future. There's definitely a lot to look forward to when our roundest of pegs are available to go in the roundest of holes, and we still have a huge opportunity to have a brilliant season.
And finally, news coming out of the club this week: Jeff Chappell retired after 6 decades of service to the club. You did give us a quote for the release this week, but do you want to give us some more words?
Yeah, great guy. I don't think I explained it very well actually in my quote, but for a manager to have the club's greatest manager still working at the club, some can see that as maybe a little bit intimidating, but I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved our Thursday afternoon chats, Jeff and I, and to hear about his time in management, to share some of my experiences here and away from here, to talk about the supporters, to talk about the community. I always like to hear his opinion on our players. I really enjoyed that, and performances. So I was very lucky really to have him here for the time he was here, and subsequently I still spoke to him yesterday on the phone, and he's someone I think I'd like to think is a friend now, and someone that is there to talk football about in a way that only managers can really understand. No one really understands what it's like to have 10 injured as a manager, unless you've been a manager and had 10 injured. And when you've got someone else in your organisation that can empathise with certain elements of the job, it certainly makes the world go round a little clearer for you in your own mind. Just a brilliant guy, and he brought so much to this football club. When I look at the timeline as I walk in the club, it is a Jeff Chappell timeline. There's no doubt about that, and his service here and his successes will never be forgotten. And I'd be surprised whether they be superseded, because he did so much. But brilliant guy, and I hope he deserves a rest, and he deserves retirement. He deserves to be able to have some time for himself, and I hope he makes the best use of that he can.
Darren, thank you for your time. Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you.